It's a little over 6:15 p.m. across Cameroon. It is time for the news on Canal International. First, the headlines with Kejang Henry Atembe.
More Cameroonians repatriated from Equatorial Guinea as the country prepares for presidential election come November 20. 23 deportees have arrived Cameroon via the Douala International Airport, making a record number of 111 flushed out of the former Spanish colony. One of UPC's factions, Venerate Ferit, they say, lives on. And the most beautiful woman in Cameroon for 2023 is Miss Marie with the highest overall rating by a panel of judges. First Lady Chantal Biya was equally marveled by this ebony beauty and could not appeal the judgment. The 6:15 news rolls out in a jiffy with anchorman Ntarike Divine Ramsey Jr.
Now, the third contingent of Cameroonians repatriated from Equatorial Guinea arrived the country earlier today via the Douala International Airport. Welcomed by local administrators, the men, women and children expressed joy and gratitude. Up next, Ndi Maureen says so far 111 Cameroonian nationals have been expelled from Equatorial Guinea for not having proper documentation. A report.
Chanting songs of victory and praises to the head of state for facilitating their return back to their father's land is relieving. These 23 Cameroonians deported from neighboring Equatorial Guinea marks the third contingent of deportees. So far, a total of 111 Cameroonians have returned to the
in Guinea for about 50 years. So I've been suffering all this while. Police everywhere.
The traumatized Cameroonians decried continuous torture and arbitrary arrest that forced them to return home.
There's no job, there's no company, there's nothing. So I really regret why I went there in the first place. They don't want to see strangers. They see us like animals.
A majority of these Cameroonians were involved in menial jobs, making it difficult for them to get their resident permits, whose cost has galloped to above 500,000 francs CFA.
I don't have money to make paper. I don't want to stay again. My first paper was 750,000 for a year. So now I heard that is 500.
Every Cameroonian, if he has problem, he can come back easily to Cameroon.
The government of Cameroon is more concerned about the safety of its citizens. That's why their voluntary repatriation was necessary.
Now, in a related development, Equatorial Guinean nationals residing in Cameroon have joined in campaigns ahead of a presidential poll slated for November this year. And supporters of the ruling PDGE party of incumbent Theodoro Obiangema Bazogo say their candidate is the best choice for the top job. Keja Henry Atembe.
Massive mobilization of Equatorial Guinean nationals ahead of the presidential elections. Mostly young people are supporters of the Democratic Party of Equatorial Guinea led by the national president Teodoro Obiangema Bazogo. Unwavering support from the Equatorial Guinean diaspora in Cameroon, coming from the center, the east, southwest, west and littoral regions. First Lady says she has promised to vote for the party of President Obiangema Bazogo. For the sixth term, the incumbent Obiangema Bazogo will go for these elections scheduled for November 20. And from every indication, the polls are already showing that President Obiangema Bazogo would be leading for the election. And if President Obiangema wins, this will make him the current longest-serving leader in the world. President Obiangema Bazogo came to power in 1979 through a coup d'etat.
Let's stay on our political page because concrete work has gone underway at the National Assembly days after the formal opening ceremony last week. The lawmakers today received 3 bills from the Presidency of the Republic during a plenary session chaired by the first Vice President of that House. Hyacinth Chia reports.
3 bills tabled before the members of parliament this Monday, November 14, in a plenary session chaired by the first vice president, Hilarion Etong. To be looked into by the lawmakers is the bill relating to the suppression of piracy, terrorism, and offences against the safety of maritime navigation and platforms, which is aimed at suppressing other unlawful acts on water bodies and inland waters. The bill will be defended by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Betia Somo. The People's Representatives have also received the bill to authorize the President of the Republic to ratify the General Cooperation Agreement between the Republic of Cameroon and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, signed in Yaoundé on November 10, 2021, aimed at strengthening friendship ties between the two countries and developing bilateral cooperations in the areas of investment, economy, trade, education, science, culture, tourism, sport, security, and the fight against terrorism. And equally to be scrutinized by the lower house of parliament during this third ordinary session is the settlement bill for the Republic of Cameroon. A series of oral questions have equally been addressed by the MPs to the different members of government who will be mounting the rostrum in the days ahead to provide needed answers.
Now, 62 years after he was reportedly poisoned in Switzerland, Félix Roland Moumié continues to be venerated across his native Cameroon. His living comrades of one of the splinter groups of the UPC party gathered in Douala the weekend to refresh their memories on the legacies of the frontline nationalist. Keja Henry once again.
62 years after the assassination of Félix Roland Moumié, pioneer of the Union de Population du Cameroun, his peers of the party commemorate his disappearance. This is an opportunity for the Patriotic Front to recollect the historic moments during the struggle for independence. A duty for these activists and sympathizers of one of the factions of UPC to review the commitments of Félix Roland Moumié, the first president of the Union de Population du Cameroun, as someone who inspired the younger generation of nationalists in Cameroon.
Now, there's little gainsaying the fact that any war is always humanly and materially very costly. And as the Commonwealth took time off at the weekend to pay homage to those soldiers who fell during the previous world wars, the diplomatic head of the UK's mission in Cameroon urged all the warriors across the English-speaking Northwest and Southwest regions to lay down their arms for peace to be given a chance. Ines Ondoambala reports from Limbe.
Over 1.7 million Commonwealth soldiers perished during the First and Second World War, and in Cameroon, the fallen Commonwealth soldiers were buried at the Limbe Botanic Gardens memorial graves. It is in communion with the United Kingdom that the British diplomatic mission to Cameroon and government officials are jointly marking this year's Remembrance Day.
Across the world, not just in Commonwealth countries, with graves of members of the Commonwealth who have fallen in wars. They're held across the world to reinforce everyone's commitment to peace, whilst remembering Remembrance Day, the lives that were lost in the Great War, the First World War.
It was an occasion to remember those who fought long ago, those who died, and those who are still missing. The Remembrance Sunday held in Limbe in the Southwest region, which has been plagued by conflict for quite a while now. The British diplomat expressed the wish that the conflicts in the Northwest, Southwest, and Far North regions should come to an end, as war is humanly, materially costly, and
we want to remember all those who gave their lives for our well-being, and keep telling us war is not the solution, peace is the solution.
The Cameroon government delegation to this event is headed by the Secretary of State in the Ministry of Defense in charge of ex-servicemen and war victims, Kumpa Issa. the governor of the Southwest region, Bernard Okaliabilai, the British High Commissioner to Cameroon and the UK senior military advisor were also joined by representatives from the French and German embassies in Cameroon.
Now, as the world faces multi-form crisis with growing numbers of people sliding into poverty, development experts are multiplying actions to help cushion the impacts on the most vulnerable. One of them, currently being rolled out, targets girls and young women across the Sahel. Stephanie Chin.
At a time when Cameroon and the world at large are faced with economic crisis, there has risen a need to boost revenue. Reason why actors and partners of the Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend SOCIETE project made in Douala. SOCIETE is a project which targets vulnerable adolescents, girls and young women with the aim of building their capacity so they can contribute to the economic development of their various countries. This time, Cameroon is inclusive.
Young girls represent more than 52% of the population. That means that those young girls who are vulnerable, we have to work with them, we have to empower them to increase the revenue of the country.
According to organizers, the SOCIETE project exposes girls and young women to great opportunities.
This project is really an accelerator for gender equality and also for the access to reproductive health and rights.
A project which is already producing results in some of the 9 African countries targeted.
In other countries, we have worked a little bit. We have results on reducing child marriage, which are very impactful. In Cameroon, we are just started. The project started the implementation this June.
Together with other partners, SOCIETE ensures proper health care for the vulnerable population.
Without the health of the young girls, they cannot do every other thing, empowerment activities that we want them to do.
The SOCIETE project has just been introduced in Cameroon, but actors are already positive of its success in elevating the potentials of the African woman.
Cameroon now knows its beauty queen for the year 2023. 22-year-old Marie Princess Ndoun was crowned winner of the 16th edition of the Miss Cameroon Beauty Pageant at the weekend. Beatrice Ngamo, up next, says the bachelor degree student has placed the fight against breast cancer at the heart of her future operations. Her report.
Here she is, the one wearing the crown of Miss Cameroon 2023, 22-year-old. Princess Marie Ndoun is here.
As Miss Cameroon, I'm here to represent Cameroon internationally, not just with my beauty, but with my intelligence and with the person I am, because I am a truthful person. I'm not joking with what I'm doing. I'm focused on my objective, and I think I will have a good year of being Miss Cameroon.
The 1.82 meter damsel is a 4th-year bachelor student in professional management at UCAC Boya, Douala branch, a blend of beauty and knowledge.
Your education, my education, our education is the one that will build the world.
This origin from the Central and Littoral region, that is Sanaga Maritime and Makenene for the parents, candidates from the Littoral saw the dream she's been nurturing from childhood become a reality last Saturday during the 16th edition of Miss Cameroon Finals. Her campaign is on breast cancer awareness, especially for the girl child.
Because I realized that many girls do not know the symptoms of breast cancer, and I know that if a girl can educate herself on the way of prevention of breast cancer, we can reduce the amount of death we have each and every year.
Princess Marie Ndoun Isie has a 9-month mandate with a monthly salary, a flat, a jeep, alongside a check of 5 million CFA francs as winner.
Now let's hop out of Cameroon to go international, because it's been termed historic, and I'm making reference there to a face-to-face meeting between the leaders of the United States of America and China. Joe Biden and Xi Jinping met for the first time in 5 years, and the first time since Biden was elected president today. The U.S. leader says he is committed to keeping communications lines open between both countries so they can henceforth work together to find solutions on urgent global issues, including climate change and rising insecurity. The meeting happened today on the sidelines of the G20 summit at Bali in Indonesia. And that's where we wrap it up for tonight's edition. Don't you forget to tune in. Same time tomorrow. Meantime, Alexis Lenkanga comes up at 1950 with more news in French. In between, Mark Chuamo and his guests continue their prelude to the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Bye-bye.